The August meeting for the Chelmsford Board of Public Health. I wanted to welcome everybody here today. We are holding this both on Chelmsford Television as well as Zoom. And the reason for the latter is that for the last couple of months, due to COVID and other restrictions, we have not been able to take public input. And we wanted to make sure we gave everybody that wanted to a chance to do that at the end of the meeting. The first part, as always, is going to be our typical meeting, which does not have public input. We will be saying some things that might be pertinent to your concerns, so listen as we go along. And with that, I think I will allow my colleagues to review the minutes, and I will take a motion when ready to approve them.
Motion to accept the July minutes.
Do I hear a second?
I hear a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Okay, so we've approved the minutes now. Next is our outgoing correspondence for the month.
Motion to accept outgoing correspondence.
Give me a moment to sort of make sure I review. This is
Just
only the two?
A mudroom and a porch.
Yeah, okay. Do I hear?
Second? Yes, I'll
Sounds
give you a
good.
second.
And as to the vote, aye?
All
Aye.
in favor? Aye.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, for incoming correspondence, how many days do we have the various ponds closed this year, or this month?
There's been twice we've had to close them.
Twice each?
One time it was for 1 day. We were able to get it converted back around. And the other time was for 2 days.
Okay,
Was it during that really hot weather?
That second time was during that very hot weather, yes.
They always seem to have problems when that happens.
Right.
now we've been able to otherwise keep it open, people have been complying, social distancing, the lifeguards haven't been harassed.
Predominantly,
And no complaints coming in.
Anybody else been harassed about masks or otherwise like we had before?
Not at the
No.
lakes.
Okay. And they will be spraying tomorrow, August 4th?
Actually, this is the mosquito control project. That's where, this one here is residents actually calling in or going online and requesting it. And it works best if a group of people do it as neighbors, so they can get the whole cluster done. But
Okay.
these are the dates that are available to be in our town.
Okay,
Now, it says here you can ask for it more than once. Can you ask for it every week?
For these particular dates. You can
Oh.
request it. They'll certainly do their research to decide if it needs to be done again,
Okay.
or if it's a time frame.
So if you were having.
They do it 4 times a summer.
Right.
You can request it 4 times.
Well, it looks like they're doing it every week.
Yeah, there's 4 different sessions they do it,
Oh, I
and
see.
this is the particular session for
Okay.
this one of the 4.
All right.
That's people joining.
so the notice of appeal rights?
Yeah, this one here, they're both actually on the Chelmsford landfill for the solar project. The first one is just expanding because of COVID-19. The laws had changed so they could expand their time frame for doing the testing. So that's what that one is. And then the second one is the modification of the post-closure use design, so it's been approved.
Okay, so when it says notice of appeal, or
Anybody
have-
can appeal
Okay.
this project.
okay. And the abatement, asbestos and asbestos were the typical, nothing unusual in those two.
No, just 2 residentials.
Interesting, they're
Being
both
done.
in Dalton Road.
It was. I kind of looked into it to see if there was anything else, and it is just the residential cleanup.
They were probably
Their homes.
built at the same time,
Yeah.
so they have the same problem.
Okay.
Like a motion?
I will take a motion to accept the incoming correspondence.
And I'll second that.
I'll make the motion, seconded by Richard.
Okay? And,
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Sounds good. Next is the old business. In old business, I think we have some updates on COVID-19. I know
do.
some things. Did you want to say something, or do you want me to say something?
So the total confirmed since the beginning onset is 355, and the probable is 31, so the total inclusive is 386. The current active is 52, which includes probable, and total deaths from the onset is 43.
How many of those were in the nursing home?
You know what, I had that number at the last meeting, and typically it's about 80% are from the nursing home
So
on the deaths.
on this, you're talking about increases of like 3%. In other words, that last month we were 337 for total cases, we were 47 for active, and we were, our deaths was at 42, so we've gone up a small amount, but not
Correct.
significantly in any of those three areas. Okay. So with regard to COVID-19 and sort of general concepts, first is just on an overview. I think that what we have to remember now is that it's okay to dine with your family. It's not necessarily okay to dine with friends. If you were outside and 6 feet apart, that would be okay. But what we're seeing both locally with regard to activities and what we're seeing in the state with regard to break rooms at hospitals where there's been outbreaks in Springfield, it's when people take the masks off, particularly around like eating, drinking, and socializing, that people need to be careful of. So one thing I wanted to point out about this is that there's a difference between quarantine and isolation. If there's been a potential exposure, that person, according to the DPH guidelines, is going to be quarantined for 14 days where they're not supposed to be around other people, and that is irrespective of a test. The test can be done. It's best to do it about 4 to 5 days into it to give it a chance to turn positive, but you could turn positive anytime in that 14 days. Second thing is isolation. Isolation after the onset of symptoms or after a positive test. There are 10 days that somebody has to be isolated from other people, and before they can go back, they need to be symptom-free for a period of time. That period of time was about 3 days, and I believe that the state guidelines this last week changed to 1 day symptom-free before going back. In terms of the tests to do this, there are generally three major categories. One is the PCR test. It is the one that has the highest sensitivity and the highest specificity. Translation, that means it has the fewest false positives and the fewest false negatives. It is almost 100% on both of those, so that's the gold standard, and that's what most of the, for instance, Maine, the states that are concerned about travel, that's the test that they want. There are antigen tests. These are the rapid tests that people do. And the problem they've had with the antigen tests is that if you are positive, if your test is positive, you most likely have it, but it is missing in some cases, which is one of the reasons that on an exposure that you are 14 days irrespective of the test. And the last type of test is the antibody test. Antibody tests, it is unclear whether someone is protected based on the results. It is unclear whether they could still be contagious. And the only thing it does tell you if you're positive that you could donate plasma. But one thing to keep in mind for anybody who does this is the state currently views a positive antibody test. Even if you were sick in March and your test is positive now, your isolation starts the moment you get that result back. And so that if people are thinking about doing those tests, just be a little careful of the implications. And one thing that has changed with regard to last month's meeting, last month they had said that because the PCR test can be too sensitive and pick up fragments of the disease weeks afterwards, that they didn't want anybody to retest for 6 weeks. And this last week they changed that to 90 days so that if you are positive, they go by the symptoms. They do not want you to test for at least 90 days afterwards. Now, with regard to high school graduation, did anybody have any comments or?
Yes, I can tell you that they're having a meeting tomorrow. Sue is going to be a part of that meeting, and they're re-looking at the plan that they had already put in place. So more to come on that after their meeting tomorrow.
And we have been very much made aware of the fact that there were some graduation parties and that there were some cases that resulted of that the governor pointed out last Friday. Those, Darcy Beal, our public health nurse, has been very aggressively tracing all those cases appropriately and all of their contacts. And in that has realized that there have been multiple parties, and she's putting it all together, but trying to make sure that everybody who is affected is appropriately isolated or quarantined to protect the rest. And based on the evolution of this, that's why there's going to be that meeting tomorrow about the high school graduation. And I'm sure from comments I've heard that once we go to the public input section, there'll be more questions as to this. I don't think that we want to get into specifics. We don't want to breach the privacy here of the people involved. But we have been very aggressively and very completely looking into this matter. The next issue is the school reopening plans.
Yeah, so I can speak to that a little bit. Spoke to Dr. Lang today. They do have their school committee meeting tomorrow evening, and they will be discussing what that looks like. They've had a committee of over 100 people that have been involved. I know our department has been visiting with them to the schools, looking at different hybrids of in-session setups, and that would be 3 feet apart, 6 feet apart, and those types of things. So their meeting is tomorrow night. It does have public input, so more to come on what that looks like. They do have to have their final sent in to the state by August 10th. I do know that on July 31st, they needed to send in they did send in that they were looking at 3 different types of versions. But some more to come tomorrow night.
Yeah, there's the 3 plans that have been requested by the state. And I know that the school committee has been very, very active into developing this. But when you go down that rabbit hole, apparently there's mandates that if the school's open, they have to provide a lunch and things that they need to sort of make sure they can kind of legally kind of figure out how to satisfy all the various statutes, the existing ones and the acute ones that have been put in place in order to do so responsibly and per the law.
Yeah, there's a lot involved.
So, and I apologize for talking so much. Did either of my colleagues have any questions or comments about these?
You slid out old news into new news pretty smoothly there, so.
They kind of connected, I think, a little bit of what happened.
Yeah, I just saw it was under old business, and that's where I went with that.
It's fine. I'd like to discuss the daycare facility kitchen, this $200 fee this is a new fee, right?
Yeah, actually, it's not a new fee when we're talking about the daycare centers.
Yeah.
So currently, there's a couple of them that are paying $375 for their permit, and most are paying $175 for their permit. So when looking into it and trying to determine the real reason, what that's happened over time, couldn't really be gone through. So what we did is we sat and talked to Sue about it, and Sue has approved our suggestion of going to 200 for all of them versus it being a difference of 375 and 175. Initially was looking at how many students they had, but in reality, their student ratio changes a lot, and that isn't anything that has been required of them to even enter on how many students.
Well, I'd like to see that change to 175.
Put them all at 175?
Right, and at least for this year, because, they're suffering.
I agree.
They're not full, all right? And I looked down here in a brewery with 99 seats. 99 seats is paying 175. These places don't have.
Right.
And they've just got children. So I think that to take it up even to 200, I think is a burden that we shouldn't be putting on them right now. I mean, that
It makes sense.
That would be my opinion. I'd like to make a motion to change that to 175.
This 175, this is the fee for next year or for all new applications?
This would be next year because they have already put in for their application this year.
Okay. Okay,
Yep, understood.
Absolutely.
so. Do we need,
I'll second that. I think, just like you said, we have plenty of time to make adjustments and whatever, and she's right that depending on the size and the shape and what kind of meals that they're serving, you kind of got this mix and mash of different things. So, yeah, whether it's 175 or 200 really isn't isn't a significant thing. So keeping it the same, I think is reasonable for this year until things get settled back down. So I'd support it.
Okay. Do we need to take a vote on that fee?
Yeah, you can, yes, you probably should. yeah.
Okay, so why don't we take a vote now to change the daycare facility kitchen fee for next year from 200 to 175 across the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, okay, so the next is the complaints regarding the asphalt odor at Scotty Hollow.
I think we just need to, yep, no, go ahead, you're fine.
Okay,
My error. Go ahead, Dr. Miko.
did you want to take that one, or?
Sure. So I've been out there several times, many times, actually. I've interviewed many people. On the days that I go out, sometimes I see all the same people, sometimes I see different people. Predominantly throughout the times that I've been there, it's more, the odor that I smell is over by the highway, and it's rubber on asphalt, it's gases, it's oils. We've received multiple complaints, and those complaints have ranged in time all over the place throughout the day. One of the complainants called last week and said that she was smelling it at 6 a.m., or at 6:30 a.m. in the morning. So I went out there, I was there for 6:30 a.m., and I smelled the smell. So it was the first time that I smelled the odor, and it was pungent. So I walked the whole facility where I was smelling it, and over by the highway, all the way down by the pool. I interviewed people that were coming out of their houses. They didn't really think it was too bad, but there was clearly a smell. I got in my car, I drove over to the asphalt, to Newport Asphalt, and as I was driving and turning around in their driveway, a asphalt tanker was coming out, and the odor was pungent. So I think what was going on is they were delivering the gas, because it was an empty vehicle, delivering the gas, and somehow the odor is getting out into the admissions. And I went back to Scotty Hollow to meet Jeff from Westford. He was there just before 8 o'clock, and the smell had started already to dissipate. So, and the trucker was gone. I followed the truck onto the highway. I could smell it strongly all the way right onto the highway. Jeff and I talked for a little bit. He couldn't really smell it. So, you could smell like waves of it coming through with the wind, but nothing like what it was at 6:30 a.m. So at that point, Jeff and I discussed, how is it going to be handled? Obviously, this facility is not in Chelmsford. However, our people are being affected by it. The facility is in Westford, and so we decided that Westford would reach out to DEP, because DEP is the permitting authority.
Right.
And they're the ones that are going to go out and hopefully sort of, contain this or fix this problem. So, so it'll go in. So I sent Jeff all of the information today, and he's going to reach out to DEP.
So this is an odor that's coming from, the tank is bringing in the oil,
I think the tank's bringing in the gas,
or the gas, okay.
and I think they're transferring the gas into their tanks, and the emissions are coming out. The odors are coming out somehow. And even outside the vehicle, the tanker, you can smell, it's a very strong odor. You can get behind an asphalt truck and it smells. You can get beside an asphalt truck and it smells. So to transfer the gas into another tank, obviously it's going to smell. And I think with the right wind direction, and if you look at some of the pictures that I have in there, I try to depict where, I'm not sure, Rich, do you have the packet? He does.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so
I do.
you can see the asphalt company and where they're bringing this gas is very elevated. I think what's happening is the wind is blowing in that direction, and Scotty Hollow is just a tad lower, and it's sort of wafting and falling onto that property, that whole area. So I'm not sure how far the direction the odor is going, but I can tell you that it's going to Kelshil Road. I know that there were some people that were walking around this area, and they were walking around Scotty Hollow, and I interviewed them, and they said that they could smell it, and it is with, I think it was a south-southwest type wind direction that it was coming in. That's what the gentleman had said. So there's other places that are smelling it, but Scotty Hollow, it seems to be the worst, and it seems to be settling right on top of them.
So what do we think there are options here?
Well, I just as a comment, in historical perspective of asphalt plants, regretfully being around them, any facility, I hate to say it this way, but any facility, whatever their specific hours are that the state and Westford and whoever have approved for them for operation, startup time for any facility that's going to be burning and cooking anything during that startup period, just like your wood burning stove, is the worst time usually for any kind of burn facility to start and to stop, where they shut it off, kind of thing. And things are trying to, what I call burning off in the end. So the early morning, whenever their hours are, and that end of day kind of thing that they may have, and again, I have no idea what their hours are going to be their peaks. And then of course, we add in potentially some contractual thing going on where they're the supplier for say a pretty significant size project somewhere, and therefore they're pushing out large volumes of material in a short time frame. Then you'll get those peaks in between. But the beginning and the end has been something that I noticed when I was doing this over the 30 plus years. Beginning of day and end of their days were always that period of time where odors, and of course it's, just to add to it, the trucking. The truckers are lining up early, okay, running to load up and get out kind of thing. So you have more trucks there at that backup time kind of thing that you have during the day too. So you get that odor, extra odor and exhaust from not just the plants thing, but excessive trucks that are there during that beginning of that period too. So I'm not surprised that the early morning might be a peak. Now again, the incoming materials, asphalt materials that they're filling up and mixing with whatever concoction. One thing that I'd like to know is this the normal formulation that the state is using? It better not be that other crazy one that we had years ago that was really knocking everybody's socks off. They better not, the state better not be trying to use that same formulation again. Because we had real problems at the end with the other plant, which then they pulled it and stopped making it there. I hope this new place is not being approved for that new formulation, which is more pungent, more rubberized, kind of burning smell kind of thing. So.
Maybe you and I can talk offline a little bit about this?
Yes.
That'd be great.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I don't know anything about the former that you're talking about.
Yeah, no.
Thank you.
And as I said, this is a new plant, new thing and whatever, are they totally comparable? But a burn, a cooking facility for asphalt is a cooking facility for asphalt, and I don't think there's been phenomenally great advances in technologies to make what they've got there dramatically better than some of the previous stuff they have. So, but maybe, hopefully I'm wrong, so.
So I think that Mike McCall, the assistant town manager, has been putting bids out to do Chelmsford Town's air quality study, and that they're going to be trying to do that in September, I believe.
Okay.
Yes. I know there's a specific allotted amount of money that is set aside for that.
Okay.
So I can tell you that,
Also,
oh, go ahead, Rich.
sorry. No, also too, when I was reading the thing on the complaints and whatever, Are we in that 90 to 120 days of presumable continual testing by the state?
Yes, I mean, they just
to-
opened, what, 2 months ago?
End of June.
My,
So I mean,
End
are
of
we
when?
in that, I mean,
I think it was end of June.
this should be a time frame where they're at their best, I guess, if you want to call it that.
right, and as they ramp up, I'm a little concerned about, they're still in their early stages, and as they ramp up, they may have more deliveries, and the deliveries may be throughout the day more often. So
okay.
we're probably looking at some additional gas deliveries and additional complaints, additional odors.
Okay. All right, thanks.
So I just want to say the DEP has already been contacted
Yeah.
with Michelle and Westford Health Director. So
we've
it's
been out
still
there-
ongoing.
We've been out there repeatedly.
Oh, yes,
We've contacted Westford.
yes,
We've contacted Mass DEP. Westford had a response to our complaint, I believe, that simply said that the new plant was the highest technology of any
Correct.
plant in the state.
Correct.
Didn't address the formulation issue. And the town is going to do their own air quality study in addition to the one that's being done by Westford now.
Yes,
or by
so-
state.
yeah, I don't think that Westford had been out there at the times that this odor happened, because I was out there many, many times, and I never smelt it until this one particular morning. And that's when I got in my car and drove over there and followed the asphalt truck coming out, and it was a very strong odor.
Okay.
So it's same odor. I know that the people, at this point, I know, and people are sensitive. Some people have more sensitivities to odors than others. But this particular morning, on this particular day, it was strong.
Okay.
And I smelt it. I witnessed it as well. On the other days, I did not.
And it was asphalt.
It was asphalt.
Because there was an issue at one of the other sites where they were rinsing out the vehicles with gasoline, I believe I heard, in order to prevent the asphalt from sticking. So that, one
Right.
thing's formulation, I guess the other thing to look into is to make sure the procedures are appropriate.
Right.
I do know that also on our notes that Environmental Director from Westford, Ray, it has her operational visits to all 3 sites there next week. And that's at Newport, Roma, and,
La Serva, or something
Yes.
like that, yeah.
so it is an ongoing investigation.
La Serva was purchased by, they are an asphalt company, they were purchased by Newport
Right.
Asphalt.
Okay. Okay. And I think then that the last thing on the new business here is Sterling Place.
Correct.
So, Michelle?
Yes.
Yeah,
So-
go ahead.
Sterling Place, we have a condo building. It has 2 condos in it, number 5 and number 9. I'm sorry, correct me, number 7 and number 9. There's another building that is 3 and 5. Each one of these buildings has a septic system, their own septic system. Several weeks ago, I was, the owner of 7 Sterling had given me a call asking what the procedure would be because the person that is in 9 Sterling says that they are not in a position to hook up and tie into sewer. 7 Sterling had a tenant, and through the COVID thing, the tenant has moved out. They want to sell their property, and they're sort of caught in the midst between a rock and a hard place right now. They want to be granted no tie-in due to the neighbor not being able to afford it, because it would be, they think it would be a financial hardship for them.
Do we have that variance, Richard?
No, not really.
Yeah, I didn't think I did. Yeah.
I mean, bottom line is that the properties, all remaining properties that have not met the requirement of tying to sewer, and there's very few. These are duplexes, I think the simplest way to describe it. But the duplex itself has a split system, is what we required. for septic to be put in there for each one of them. So there's a total of 4 systems for those 2 buildings that are there. This has been a long-going scenario where the property owners of those 2 buildings, or the 4 owners that are there, to what I believe is 2 pieces. One would be the common cost of all 4 owners to bring a sewer pipe from Warren, in this case Warren Ave, down to a split point, where then a separate pipe would go to each of the buildings, and it would then be split to 2 more, kind of thing, so that both sides would have their things tied together. Is that common cost for all 4, and then it becomes the split cost for the 2 owners of each duplex that's there, kind of thing. There, at the end of this list, it's been, since 1990, the enforcement component for these kinds of properties off of, that aren't directly fronted, but have stubs fronted, these common drives, whatever the appropriate term is, they all have been slowly connecting in. And I really don't see that we have any way of waiving it. I mean, this is an area that's all sand and gravel, which is one of the reasons why they're lucky in the fact that the systems are now 30 years old, approximately, and that they're still working probably reasonably well because they're all in sand and gravel. If they were in some places in town, they would have already been facing the issue of installing 4 new septic systems at a pretty significant cost. So yes, the cost for all 4 of them total is large, but the idea was always to give them all these years to put a plan together and to put some money together to save up to make the connection. Their cost versus replacement cost is what, on the original sewer project, that is going to be less than living further off the street is part of the thing that increases the cost for certain property owners.
We don't have any immediate concerns about the health of the existing septic systems right now.
No, we don't have either way.
And these units, is this a grinder and pump situation, or?
It's just, it's gravity fed, I believe. And
Okay.
Richard could speak more to this because he was here when these were built.
I mean, bottom line is that, regretfully at the time, when the town was looking at that they were going to be sewering all these different sections of town, it wasn't a secret. But regretfully, at the time that these particular buildings went in, it wasn't a mandate by the planning board to dry line it. Even though the pipe wasn't out on Warren Ave yet, a lot of scenarios where you put your dry line in, let it go by, and worst case scenario is that you have to pump to your common line, and the best scenario would be that everybody would be able to tie from home all the way to the street by gravity. I believe the pipes in the streets are fairly deep on how they were installed for connections for the entire neighborhoods that they feed over there. So the pipe is pretty deep in the street. So they should all probably be able to go by gravity. And over the years, they've had some contractors look at it and whatever, but one of the things that's always been the issue is the financing of it between 4 separate entities with no, what I call no written thing of how the 4 can get together and what they should do and how they should do it, has created problems on all these common drives that we have in town. So this one's not any different than some of the others that we've gone through.
This is something that we see on a lot of those common drives, okay? And we just saw it down by the asphalt plant, this is the
Yeah,
same
Oak Ave,
scenario.
or
Oak Street, yeah.
Oak Street.
Oak Street, yeah.
Right.
So it's the same scenario, and I just, I mean, I don't, there's nothing we can do. It's required to be done when one of the properties sells.
Right, we don't have variances built into this statute. That we did have hardship, but then that came due at sale. And in terms of teams that can put in the lines, they are out there because 7 and 11 Oak Ave, or Oak Street.
Yep, 7 and
just-
11 Oak Street
Just
did
did
it.
that in April for other units this year.
Right.
So it exists, but I don't think that we have the ability to put a variance on this one.
I don't
So.
believe we do either. Richard, so we've got 2 buildings. Are they a condo?
Somehow the 2 duplexes got together in that beginning thing, and I guess, and again, that's what they've been telling us. I'm assuming it's accurate, that they condominiumized themselves for maintenance of the common driveway.
Well, I
And of
mean,
course,
it
that's
sounds
one-
like that when they
and
talk
and
about the
maintenance
units.
of the outside facilities and lawns and whatever. So that's what we've been told for years. I
Well, the
haven't
fact that
researched.
they think they each own a unit tells me that it's a condo, all right?
Yes,
And
correct,
so,
correct.
do both buildings have to connect in?
The issue is technically, no. I mean, as I originally said, there's a common length of pipe that has to go in before it splits off to the 2 buildings or the 4 units. That is what I call a common piece of pipe that everybody ties into.
Financially speaking, it would be behoove them.
I mean, yeah, I mean, technically, all 4 of them could run a separate pipe down their driveway, and, whether as 1, 2, 3, or 4, and run it all the way down. It makes no sense, other than to initially go down with a certain size pipe, and let's say 8 inch, just a number. And then the 6s tie into it for the buildings involved, and they all 4 split the cost of that common thing, and then the cost, then, hey, I'm not paying for your run to go from point A to point B, because yours might be, depending on the layout, longer than the other 2, kind of thing. So that then could go to separate to the individual duplexes, I mean, but again, that's the problem with these things. There's nothing that's in writing or clarity or whatever when they create these things that cleans it up and sits there and says, this is what you got to do when, kind of thing. But you are right. Technically, one building could run a pipe all the way down and basically sit there and say, the other building's not tying in to the pipe that I paid for unless they share the cost.
Hi, this is Satish. I am from 5 Sterling Place, and I think there are 2 more people here from 3
hi.
and 7
is-
Sterling Place. Are we allowed to talk?
apologize, but it's the, with the nature of the meeting, we just have to do the public input at the end of the meeting, so we can discuss, so the 3 of us are allowed to discuss, or the 5 of us are allowed to discuss this now, but then at the end, we'll be able to open it up to public input, and we can resume the conversation with the owners and other people who are concerned. But for purposes of the meeting, we have to just have the board members and our staff here now.
Pete,
Sounds good, thank you.
Pete, I will let you know when we're prepared to do public input.
So,
So Richard, I guess what I was trying to get at, and I'm
Yes.
not sure that it's going to help at all, 7 and 9 have to hook up if 7's going to sell.
Correct.
Do 3 and 5 have to hook up if they're in a separate building?
Correct.
They do not, or they do?
The issue is everybody has to tie in. It's just a matter of making some
Timing.
financial sense of
So,
no
so,
one,
Richard, just for
no
a
one
minute,
there wants to front 100% of running the cost of the pipe from point A to point B, which comes in front of the 2 units.
But if
That's-
7,
Go ahead.
if
I'm sorry.
7 needs to tie into Sal, and they do,
Then they're fine.
okay, but 9 says they can't afford it. Well, I mean, 7's got to
Yeah.
tie in, so they got to come to some agreement. But do 3 and
Correct.
5 have to tie in at this time, since they're a different building?
Technically, no. You're right. Technically, no, they don't. The issue is they're going to still, they're all 4 of them are in violation of the bylaw, which means they're supposed to tie in within a reasonable period of time, and they have. But from an enforcement thing, technically, 7 and 9, that building, and I know there's somebody that says I can't afford it, whatever. And so, but their problem is going to be that the sewer department is not going to approve anything other than the appropriate size piping that then in the future will take the flow from all 4. So if you want a front, if you want, I mean, and by the way, this has happened, so I'm not talking about something that hasn't happened. Somebody says, I gotta sell my house and I've gotta take my job on the other side of the country. And the other person says, no. The person fronted the cost of a pipe and connection that the sewer department will approve to take the total flow for the multiple units that are there. He then, somehow through some process, sits there and says, that's my pipe, and if this other person ever wants to tie into it, they're paying their percentage to tie into it.
Okay.
Okay? And by the way, that's happened multiple times where people have paid the upfront cost, and then years later, the other person comes back and says, I want to tie in. Say, wait, that's not town pipe, that's their private pipe. You're not tying into it until you pay them your share. And when I say their share, their common share of the common part of the run.
So,
Okay.
so I'm hoping that the Oak Street model prevails where they just go in together.
Well, I mean, if they're
Oh,
condominiums,
I mean, financially, there isn't a question, that's the way. And in fact, all the letters that have been sent out over the years to Common Drives, whatever, have said, you know, think about it now. And by the way, the people that have been out there over the years have tried to get themselves together to do it, but it's all fallen apart for what, and again, I don't know why it fell apart, but it's fallen apart 2 or 3 times. So it isn't that no one out there has ever tried to, you know, get something going, because they have. But what's happening now is exactly the concern, which is sooner or later, someone is going to be get in the vice, and it has to be done, and they're the ones that take, for short term, they take the short end of the stick, which is not the way it should be. All 4 should deal with it.
Okay,
okay.
so,
Thanks, Richard.
okay.
Yep.
So 2 things that I had printed out a previous agenda, and that's why old and new got blended together. I apologize
Oh.
for that. The other thing is that there are 2 items that we've just discussed. One is the issue around the graduation parties.
Yeah.
And the other one is the Sterling Place issues that came up after we published our agenda last Thursday.
Correct.
And then we had added those in because we thought that they were important to begin to address today. If we need to do a formal hearing for the Sterling Place properties in particular, that potentially we could add on to the agenda and have a formal discussion with them next month if need be.
Correct.
So, do we have any other comments, old and new business?
The way
No.
I understood the high school graduation wasn't the parties.
It was the graduation plan.
The protocol is in here for the plan.
Right, when I asked about the parties and such, then I got the plan.
Okay.
And
Oh,
so
they
that
gave
was,
to
that
you
was
to
all
respond.
like, that was all
Okay.
about Friday.
All right.
And so that's why we decided to put that whole batch for the COVID updates on there.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Yep.
so, if no more discussion, do I have a motion to accept old and new business?
So moved.
So,
Seconded?
all in favor?
Aye.
Wonderful.
Aye.
Thank you. Now, other. So our Lyme disease is up, and we have a case of ehrlichiosis.
Yes.
Oh dear. It's not that it's horrible, it's just that people are thinking of Lyme all the time and not the ehrlichiosis or babesiosis.
What's happening at Chelmsford Dermatology that they're getting 4 calls on them?
So a complaint came in, and it was a complaint about no social distancing, no masks, inappropriate sanitation procedures.
Okay.
So I've been down there a few times. They've put things into place. It was true. I put some things into place. They were very receptive. They've worked very well with us, and
Did they just not understand what they were
well,
supposed to do?
they had a couple signs up. The girls, there was a lot of girls in the office, and they had their masks on. It was more about people coming in and out of the waiting room, that sort of thing. There are protocols. You can sit in your car
Right.
unless, if you're elderly, by all means, come inside. But they had to be 6 feet apart, and they weren't 6 feet apart. So we put those procedures into place, and they should be pretty good right now.
Yeah, we have clients, they call from the car.
Right.
So we don't have them all waiting in there.
Yep, they were very receptive and very good to work
Just
with.
didn't understand
Yep.
it, I guess.
The Boston Market had a grease spill.
Yes, it was overfilled outside and caused the spill, but they got it cleaned up right away.
Okay. So Mark went out to Hart Pond.
Yes, actually, Michelle and Mark have collectively been doing those tests.
So 1 week it failed on my watch, and another week it failed on Mark's watch.
I see he's got overcrowding and barbecuing, and
Oh, that was initially.
so, and I just was a little concerned because it puts you in an awkward position to be policing as opposed to inspecting,
Correct.
so.
And hot problems, not social distancing again. They are parking all the way out, almost onto 27 at Hot Pond. Now, maybe they're using
The bike path is,
the bike path, but I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
It's just astonishing to me how many people are down there riding the bikes, and not there's that many people there. I do hope they're all masked.
On the beach? I've been down there a few times.
Just, if I brought my car down that road, I wouldn't be able to get back out,
Right,
okay? Because it's like right down the side of it,
sure.
right from the mobile station from 27 in, parked on both sides.
Yeah. I think Mark and I have both been out there many times, trying to police it.
I don't know that it's possible to police it.
It's very difficult, without a doubt.
2 other locations we've had problems with. Have we had ongoing issues with either the tennis courts or the high school parking lot? Are people still
We have
congregating?
I get ongoing complaints about the kids at the high school, the Parker, just playing. I get a lot of complaints about the bike path, the ponds, a lot of business complaints. I mean, we get complaints. I've never seen anything quite like this.
Have we been able to keep the tennis courts open?
Yes,
Okay, good.
they're open.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have too many complaints from there.
Okay. Initially, we had complaints from the police saying that on certain of the courts,
Mm-hmm.
that they would go and they would find teenagers congregating there in the evening and after dark.
Right,
So, they got the message.
yeah.
So,
They probably moved to the high school. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Keep it light, right?
okay. Okay,
I'll make a motion to accept the monthly reports.
okay, if nobody has any discussion on the monthly reports, do I hear a
Nope.
second?
Yes, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And,
All right. Pete, can you open us up to public input?
and we're gonna hope that we don't get Zoom bombed the way that the Board of Selectmen meeting did.
Yes.
Hope it's
So-
interesting if it comes.
It's a lot easier to break something than it is to fix it or make it or keep it,
Pete, are we good?
so. That's too loud, tell me.
He's working on it now.
Yeah, he is.
There we go.
is.
Okay, so I see new faces,
It's the one that's making it.
and this is the public input section, so we're not sure that we can hear people, but anybody who would like to bring up any other issues for the Board of Health to consider, this would be the appropriate time to speak.
Are we going in any particular order?
Oh, go ahead.
You're
please.
first.
No, go ahead, you're in there.
Okay, no, that's okay. I was just asking. This is Satish. I'm calling from 5 Sterling Place.
Mhm.
And let me start my video. Okay, there you go. Can you see me okay? Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Hello.
We can see you.
We see you.
Okay, good. So I have also Robert. Rob Park is from 7 Sterling Place. I think he's on the call. And Pawan is from number 3 Sterling Place. So all of us are here. This is about the connection from our homes to the town sewer, which comes on Warren Avenue. And I think we appreciate that we have to connect, right? I think that is, it's well known that we have to connect. I think our appeal is essentially to talk about the costs and what options we have. Because we've gotten quotes in the past, and the quotes have been significantly higher, which also includes a fee that we have to pay to the town, which is I think about 4,400 or so. I don't recall exact number, but it's in that order. So altogether, it's significant value even when you compare to the value of the house or the unit itself. It's a significant portion. So financially, it's a hardship, plus it doesn't make sense to do it if the cost is that high. What we have requested is one, either we get a waiver for not connecting to the town because our septic systems are functioning just fine, or we find a way to lower costs, which is affordable. Right? We would love to connect it as long as the costs are within reasonable bounds. Right now, the estimates we are getting are altogether for the 3 of us is like 40,000-50,000 or even more. It's just too much, right? And also some of the contractors which have been on the town's list for connecting to the sewer have either gone out of business or they're not doing that anymore. So we've called almost, I think the list was maybe 18, 21 people. Out of that, if I recall right, Rob and Pawan, correct, keep me honest, we probably got like 3 or 4 quotes, that's it. And it's very hard for people to show up to even give quotes. It's a long process. We've been through that, and the quotes that we got are, I think, higher than anyone can imagine. It's about a 3 to 4 day worth of work, and for that you're paying roughly about $15,000 to $20,000 per unit, which is just too much. I can't think of any job which takes 2 days or 3 days that costs that much, right? So the ask here is for the town to consider to give us a decent contractor that costs a reasonable amount of money, and we are okay to connect. In absence of that, we would like a waiver. So Rob, Pawan, if you guys have anything else you want to add to that, feel free to do that.
Yes, this is Robert Park. My wife is the one who actually originally reached out. First, I want to thank the members here for, thank you so much for taking the time to discuss our situation. So, yeah, what what Satish said is a very good summary of that. We have done many different discussions, we are financially, the 3 units are financially ready to make an investment to this, but within reasonable, with reasonable amounts, and we've been saving our money to do so, but we do have I mean, as we say, we cannot choose our neighbors sometimes, right? So, one of our neighbors are not in a financial position to do so, and we understand them. We've grown to accept them, and I have a good relationship with them. I am 7, and they're number 9. My kids were born in Chelmsford. We've been here since 2005. So we have a long history here. But at the same time, we find ourselves in a situation that we outgrew the 2-bedroom house. I have a boy and a daughter, and they cannot live in the same bedroom together. So 3 years ago, we made the difficult decision to move out to another place. And right now, I have 2 mortgages that I'm stuck with. The tenants that we were able to find, they're very decent people, but now they're moving out, and we're afraid that we're not going to be able to find tenants financially responsible, given the COVID-19 and all the hardships that are going economically right now. So it's putting us in a bind right now. So we would love to have some alternatives and some support from the town as well, please.
Okay.
All right. As I was talking about it, previously, the issue that the 4 units have is that it's condominium, it's on a common drive, et cetera, and some of the problems, which again, I don't know the specifics of it, of what's in the roadway, it's really a common driveway, not a roadway, where your utilities are that feed the facility, and I mean, there's 2 ways of approaching any job, particularly for multiple units. One is probably the most cost-effective, potentially. And again, as I said, I'm not the contractor given prices, and in some cases, maybe prices that aren't justified for the work done, but that's what the market is, and regretfully, from the day that we started the sewer project till now, as the competition of contractors has diminished to very few, the competitive, people competing for the same job is allowing prices to go up. But there's 2 approaches. One would be, which is a force main. You put a pressure line down the street, the common street. It's a shallow pressure line that you bring down your driveway, street, whatever terms you want to use it. You bring it down to a common thing where it then splits off to in this case, 4 units, 4 owners, and that one force main going down that street to there. The negative side of it is that each house would have to have their own grinder pump to do it. Gravity, part of the problem with gravity, of course, is it needs to flow downhill, and I think some of the comments in the past was that it's a deep cut in that sandy material, which makes it a little bit more difficult to deal with it, and therefore the costs are a little bit higher to deal with it. But gravity is nice because it always works. So your gravity option is, no matter what, it's going to be a little bit more expensive, but more long-term practical versus the more affordable scenario. Have you, and this is a question to what was there, have you looked at the pumping option? Has anybody come back with that option?
So there were 2 different recommendations. They were not the same. One contractor recommended that gravity will work. The other contractor said that gravity will not work because you don't have sufficient length and incline to use gravity. You will have to put a grinder pump in there. It may not be per unit, but it could be one single one that is used by everyone. So, and the cost that they gave was split into two parts. One was connecting from Warren Avenue, the town connection, to a central location for the 4 units, and then it forks to the 4 units.
Right.
Each unit gets its own line up to a connecting point, and the connecting point is common, as you said earlier. So I believe the gravity option was ruled out. We could use it. It's either going to be expensive or we still will have to put a pump in there. So,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, whatever the technician says, I mean, whatever the recommendations, we would go by that. We are okay with that. But I don't know if there is an option that the town can talk to some of these vendors or suppliers or contractors.
Well, I mean, not speaking for the others, but bottom line is that we can't influence, interfere. I mean, you know, you're a private way and private contractor, and anything's possible, I guess, but in the entire length of the sewer project, the town has totally avoided any concept of getting involved at all in contractual things or working with a quote-unquote contractor that would do certain, jobs per hour, for whatever. They've just
It's not our job.
Do we
right.
have,
Just haven't, and again, haven't made the decision over this 1986 till today project that they never did it, and regretfully, it's this last small group of under probably 100 units total in the town that are not connected, and they're all somewhat similar to yours in the fact that they're long runs, whether it goes to multiple units or single units or whatever, that are on the high end of things. Absolutely.
would we be able to get the name of the contractor who did the Oak Street project and pass that along?
Yeah, so we can actually give them the name of all the ones permitted with us,
Okay.
plus the name of the one that did the last connection.
Right. So we know they're
We
active.
keep talking about these contractors that are permitted in Chelmsford. That's not the way it works, though. Aren't they permitted through the state? So where did we bring the contractor in?
They found the contractor.
But he wasn't from our Chelmsford list. He was from another
No,
list.
he was an outsider.
He was an outsider.
He has done work here before,
So,
but he was an
my
outsider.
point is that you keep talking about our list of
Right, but I-
The
and we
sewer
don't have a
department,
list.
yeah, the health department does not have that list.
We don't have a
The
list.
sewer department has a list
Right.
that they have done work with over the years.
But they can go off of that list.
They can.
They don't have to stay on that list.
Correct.
Yes,
they do not.
absolutely. They can utilize anybody they want.
Right.
Well, but again, the issue is any contractor that has done legitimate work in tying sewer connections in other communities or for larger things in states and whatever, has the right, okay, to apply to DPW to get on their list and give them the credentials that they're looking for to
Correct.
sit there and say, yes, they are a legit company and not, someone that's a fly-by-nighter kind of thing. The ones that are on the list have been screened, I guess, and have also got a track record, of doing things in town, and I guess proven that they, have their insurance coverages, et cetera, kind of thing. So, and have done satisfactory work that didn't have to chase back for them and whatever. But technically, there's nothing to stop anybody from getting sewer contractors from outside what I call the general working area, because we've had a few that have come in and done a job or two that and they went through the process with DPW and got approved and have got on their list and basically said, hey, I'm not staying on your list because this is just, how do I want to put this? There's not enough jobs left in town for a lot of contractors to step forward and sit there and say, I want to pay and stay on your list because there's just not a lot of jobs left. So
So,
So do they have to be on the DPW list in order to install the sewer?
They have to be approved by DPW and get a permit from them to do work in town, which automatically puts you on the list de facto to do the work. It's
But anybody
you know,
can come in.
You can go either way to it, but bottom line is once you've got proof to them the credentials that they need for what you can do, you're put on the list. And you're taken off the list and you request to be taken off the list.
Okay, so
I'm sorry.
the relief that's being sought is a variance,
And we
which
don't have it.
we can't give,
It just doesn't exist.
or some negotiation on their behalf of the cost, which we can't do. So,
So there's no variance in Title V,
no.
and that's what you're talking about right now.
Exactly.
Right, in the statute.
Correct.
It doesn't exist. It's
Right.
not like the planning commission.
Title V does not allow for variances
And
under
that's
their
a-
regulation.
And that's a state
That is a
law.
state law.
That is not our law, that's
Right.
a state law that we all live under.
And also too, as we talked earlier, you know, I mean, everybody that had a septic system, all 11,000 of them in town during the sewer project that I was involved with, bottom line, all said, hey, only 5% of them had failing systems at the time that the sewer project was coming through their neighborhood. Or they may have previously had to replace it because of circumstances. Most people said, oh, my system's working fine. Regretfully, you know, the town had to make a decision to protect its water supply and made that decision and made a decision to make the project totally work, which was everybody's got to tie in. And also to Board of Health straight regs, not just some state regs, allow us to make anybody tie into a sewer that's available.
Right.
But skipping all that, the bottom line here is that, yeah, these are all foreseeable to come down the pipe. As I said, I think you're right. It's the big cost has been playing with the gravity system, which again, I'm not against gravity for the simple fact is that gravity always works. Pumps and things have a tendency once in a while not to work. So, but the idea is that you do a shallow, trench coming down the street of the appropriate size. And like you said, you go to some centralized point, and whether all four of you go by gravity from your houses to the pump station there and have one pump station, and the total group of you share the cost of that pump station for the four of you, which, you know, larger multifamily buildings do that. You can do that, or you each individually have your own pump, okay, and therefore aren't sharing anything. What you do and how you maintain and what you do with it is, you know, the consequence long and short of how well the pump works and this, that, and whatever kind of thing. So, but yeah, I mean, I think at this point in time, the depth problem was, and again, knowing some of the contractors that have worked in deep live sand, what they call live sand trenches, which is what they'd be doing on your site. It's deep, dangerous, difficult, longer work than, you know, they say. If they go by a force main, yeah, they should be able to be in there, and from the pump to the street is a one-day job, and installing the pump and each individual separate connection or combined connections, whatever the consensus is you know, it again is that joint thing that you all need to discuss, and it clearly will bring down, you know, the cost from that extra deep cut. Because I remember on the other side, which by the way, we have a sister complex to you running out the other way on the southern side of you, out to the, I'm going blank on the street on the other side. It's not Sterling Place. What's the little short common drive that butts up to you on the backside? I'm going blank. But they have the same problem. And they're shuffling the same scenario, and clearly they had some really deep diggings and whatever. So I think you're right. I think you potentially could go by gravity, but is it worth the cost? That's always an issue.
All right, now before we move on, I just want to say that these are your opinions, Richard. I mean,
Yes, they are.
So
Absolutely.
if these contractors come in and
Absolutely.
say it's 2 to 3 days, this is just your opinion that it shouldn't take that long.
Correct.
I just want to be sure that this doesn't come back on you.
Yeah, no.
Because, you know-
Everything I'm talking about is just experience of past things and whatever, and my opinion of what it could be and what it should be, kind of thing. But, contractors and what they may run into in your common drive, hopefully it's all very well documented on.
I think
Do you
that,
have gas to your units back there?
We do, we have gas lines.
There is gas?
There is gas.
Okay, so you got gas, you got water, and you got underground, probably utilities for cable and that kind of stuff, do you?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a lot of stuff in the ground there, and crossing any of it always has the potential to add, to the cost of things, of what you got to do to get by something that's in the way.
I think that
So-
we're getting into a lot of discussions about the technical.
Yep.
I think
Yep.
that as to the question about do we have, as the Board of Health and the Department of Health, the legal authority to offer a waiver that's not written into the state law. There aren't, waivers are built into the law for other things, but not our sewers in Chelmsford. And in terms of lowering cost, it's an issue of that the town has not historically wanted to get into. They left it up to the residents to figure out how to tie in. I think that it may end up being that our biggest role here is if we know that somebody did it recently, if there's any benefit to being able to give that name and contact information for that contractor to see if they're any more reasonable, because it was a similar project where multiple units had to tie into a common and split the cost. But I think that those are the limits just of the nature of the board, the department, and the state law that prevails here. So,
Yeah, we would love to get the names who have recently worked at, I think you said Oak Street or somewhere.
yeah.
So
And
we
Donna-
can reach out offline to get the name.
Yeah, you can actually call the Board of Health tomorrow if you want, and I can get you that information.
Okay,
Again, no representations, we just know that they were there within the last 9 months and
Right.
put in a pretty long pipe.
Correct.
They went pretty long
Very
on Oak
deep
Street,
and a long
deep
pipe.
long, so,
right. And from what was represented to us by the owners involved, they were happy with it, so we didn't hear complaints.
Correct.
okay.
So are there any other items that residents would care to bring up for public input here?
Yes, if I may.
Mhm.
Can you hear me?
Yep,
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. My name is John, and I live in Scotty Hollow.
Mhm.
And I just want to say something. First of all, I really appreciate the way that the material was put out about our situation here with the asphalt plant. I think you have a good understanding of the situation, as good as you could. I just want to say that odor is a difficult thing to measure. Okay, and we all understand that. But for instance, I work from home all day long, and frequently when I am outdoors in the neighborhood, it's early in the morning and late in the afternoon, early evening. So the comments made earlier about the beginning of the shift and the end of the shift make a lot of sense to me. But for me and for others, it still equates to every day, all the time. All right. So, if it would be any way helpful, and I know that there's a lot of moving parts in this, we had the town of Westford involved. If any reporting from Scotty Hollow, whether it be on an individual basis or a project that I could collate and forward to certain parties to give you real-time data about when we have this smell here, which again, for me, is every day. All right, please let us know if it would be helpful in any effort to address this.
And you can email me tomorrow if you want to give me your name and your address.
Sure.
My name is Michelle Grant. You can email me at the health department or give me a call and I'll give you my email address. We have a lot
Okay.
of names already, and if the DEP wants to reach out to those people and interview those people, they certainly can.
Yeah,
But it will be,
again,
it will definitely be with, I'm pretty sure it's going to sit with the DEP.
And again, I appreciate your comment on our situation.
Yeah,
And Michelle, I will reach out to you tomorrow.
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And would
Thank
there
you
be a,
very
ro-
much.
would there be a role for passing on that information about the times and such over to
So-
Mike McCall when they do the air quality studies?
So the air quality study will go in and do things they're going to be on site. They're not going to be out into the field like we were. What I was learning from the folks at Scotty Hollow was valuable information because it was specific to specific times. So that was all very helpful to us. And we could certainly pass that on to Westford, which could pass it on to DEP. DEP may call me anyway, but I think the holder is going to be Westford and DEP because we don't own the facility. Westford does, and then the DEP is the permitting authority.
And that they would be the ones then to remedy any
Correct.
issues,
They will.
so that we can pass on information, but we don't have that authority ourselves to remedy
Do
the
not have
situation.
any authority over this at all.
So,
But we can assist, and that's what we've been trying to do. My goal was to exhaust all the avenues and make sure that I was out there at all the times that these people said this was going on. So I spread myself out in the evening, in the morning, during the day, and hopefully that'll help in the long run.
Okay.
okay. Are there any other issues or concerns that people would like to voice with regard to public input? We had heard before that there may be some questions about COVID exposures and such, which may have been addressed already in our discussion, but if there's any other concerns, feel free to voice them now. Okay, so if I'm not hearing any other concerns,
Well, hi, can you hear me?
yes,
Hi, I'm calling from Scotty Hollow also, and I apologize, I couldn't get the audio, so I didn't hear all of what you were saying. Would it be helpful to report to somebody the locations that I can smell it? Like I was up at the DPW sand salt shed today, and I could smell it way over there.
Michelle?
Well, that's good information, absolutely. Anything that you can give us that we can pass on to Westford and the DEP is going to be helpful.
Oh, okay.
And was it a
Great,
strong
because
odor?
also- Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it's like heavy petroleum, it's, honestly, it's noxious.
Yeah.
It's suffocating. Personally, it's hurting my lungs, it's giving me headaches.
Have I spoken to
So-
you on the phone already? Or interviewed you?
No, I didn't even know you were interviewing people,
Okay.
so I would love to speak with you.
So where is it that you live on Scotty Hollow?
It's a D1, so that's D as in dog.
Absolutely. So call me tomorrow and give me that information. I'd love to document it.
Oh, okay, could you just give me a phone number right now?
Sure. 978
Okay. Yes,
250
uh-huh,
5241.
okay. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, unless there's any objections, I'm going to close the public input session. Do we need to take a vote on that one?
No.
Okay. I would like to tell everybody that our next meeting will be September 14th, by virtue of the fact that the 7th is Labor Day. so that we still need to determine a room. But if there's any possibility to include public input to make sure people have a venue to talk to us, that we will try to do that. And I think that this, I'm glad that we weren't Zoom bombed. But
Eric, I'm going to be on vacation.
The
week-
14th?
Yeah, can we go back to maybe Tuesday night, the week before?
Tuesday night on the 8th, 1 second. And Rich, did you hear that?
Richard, can you hear us? No, he
Is
can't.
it
He
done?
may be able to hear us, but we can't hear him.
Pete, can you put Rich back on?
Hold on, that won't work for me either, though.
How about the 1st?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Now we can.
Okay.
What
Are you,
about, what about September
Did he-
1st?
Is that a Monday?
September.
That's a Tuesday.
September 1st is a Tuesday.
September 1st or September 8th, is that the options you're talking about, or?
I think that Anne Marie
I
realized
may
that
be away on the 14th, but Tuesday.
the 14th she's away.
Yeah.
The 14th she might be
Okay.
away.
The 8th.
I'm more flexible than you guys, so therefore,
Well, I mean,
whatever
do the
you can
first
find, I
keep
can
it on the
probably.
14th, and if I can be here, I will be here.
Why don't we move it? Because that puts it pretty late. That puts it halfway through the month.
Yeah, right, it's like.
So that I'm happy to do the 1st or the 8th. They seem more reasonable to me.
Then, what day is Labor Day?
The
The
7th.
7th,
The 7th, so I guess I'd rather do the 8th,
the 8th. Okay, so the day after Labor Day,
yeah.
September 8th,
Yeah.
6:15 PM, same as always.
Okay.
And we will determine a room closer to the event.
Okay,
Okay?
excellent.
Yeah, that's fine.
All
Okay.
right.
So
Good.
thank you
Motion to
very
adjourn?
much.
Good, thank you.
That I enjoyed.
Thank you, Richard.
No, thank you all.
I hope, this is the first time I've led a meeting, so I hope that
You're
it
fine.
went okay.
It was excellent.
So
Very
Fine.
good.
thank you very much for everybody's help, and I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second?
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
right, okay, thank you very much.
Bye, Richard.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Aye. Bye-bye.